can hit legend with the deck and maybe climb a couple hundred ranks, or the truly elite Evolved Shaman players who can hold rank 1 legend and potentially even win a world championship with the deck. So that's kind of the ones that interest me. I hope we get some of those because Lightning Blue, Box by Knuckles, double Dread Corsair, and then the free hero power from the tour guide you played on 1. Those games aren't as fun to watch.
Well, we shall see as we are ready to go. Just a little bit slightly delayed there, but we are in game number 1 here for Bloodyface versus XiaoT, and it looks like Bloodyface is on the play with a full mulligan. Definitely wants that 1 drop, as you're talking about with Shaman, but also finding a way to partition the resources is going to be important. The bigger question is, how does XiaoT view this kind of early game hand? Yes, it is low curve, but is it high impact enough for XiaoT to justify holding on to these tools? Zephyrus, a great anti-aggro tool, just a great card for almost any situation. Tenwu can give Zephyrus that flexibility, but is it just a little bit too slow? XiaoT ends up only keeping the Zephyrus in the Dragon Horde. TJ, what do you think about this?
So I do think that the Tenwu is a little bit too hopeful, right? I know Zephyrus is a keep because you can't fall too far behind on tempo against Evolved Shaman. You need to keep the early board in check, or when Box by Knuckles does come out, your Rogue just does not have the tools without Zephyrus to fight their way back. I probably would have kept Tenwu because I think that the Zephyrus Tenwu combo is one of the most powerful combos in the game. But if you actually think about what you're going to be doing with your mana in the early game, usually Zephyrus is not really going to make an appearance until you do start to get those evolve boards come out, in which case Tenwu's not really going to make an appearance until you've played the Zephyrus once the evolve board comes out. And so I think he was just looking for early game stuff, early game answers to deal with it instead of trying to go for this all-in combo almost.
Yeah. Well, that's totally fair, and has enough to hold off the aggression. Right now, Bloodyface is not off to an aggressive start quite yet. Does not have the cage match custodian, but that's okay because she already has the bog spine Knuckles. This is where cards like Lightning Bloom really shine if you're able to get it out early onto your opponents, to pressure your opponent, even just to get that on your side. But now XiaoT, the gamble has paid off with playing that early Shadow Jewel Hanar. But the thing is, it wasn't even really that big of a risk because most of the time, Shaman can't really deal with it this fast early on. I think he has the Vendetta. He will be able to activate the mana discount and now be able to fight back for even.
Yeah, nicely done. And I mentioned you need to keep the early board in check because you don't want the game to snowball out of control. Let's say you don't deal with that board, Lightning Blue Box by Knuckles comes out, and you just fall so far behind. For Bloodyface, she's not too worried right now. This start from XiaoT is not the fastest start, right? There's no Foxfart Edwin, there's no Questing Adventure. Shadow Jewel Hanar, while threatening, you can... A lot of times you can sometimes just ignore it, because if they're spending all of their mana, especially in early turns, just playing secrets, and you're just going wide and they're not dealing with your board and they just keep playing secrets, you're okay with that. So with a hand like with Box by Knuckles, Mogu, and Sea Giant, Bloodyface is going to be looking to go for one of those big pushes, those big swing turns. So we're kind of looking for cards like Desert Hare, Pitmaster, maybe even like Derailed Coaster, cards that try and that fill the board to try and make these as cheap as possible. And what Bloodyface is also going to be thinking about is whether or not to hold on to resources like Ethereal Lackey. If you keep throwing out minions, it makes that Derailed Coaster weaker, it makes Animated Broomstick weaker. You don't get to go for those big swing turns, but she realized that she needs something to shore up the next couple turns, so picks a spell with the Lightning Breath.
Yeah, in case she has to take a very defensive stance, she finds Pack Tactics. Pack Tactics, really disruptive. very disruptive for Bloodyface, who wants to trade primarily. So the one big difference that is very distinct is a lack of spells in Bloodyface's list, where other shamans tend to include a little bit more of it, whether they have things like Serpent Shrine Portal, for example, just for removal. So that's why having that extra removal piece that Bloodyface just picked up the previous turn could be important. XiaoT going with the double secret again. But at the same time, secrets like Pack Tactics will be able to give you enough tempo to fight back against Bloodyface. And this is kind of what we talked about, right? The Highlander Rogue, we all know what it can do in the late game. It's got some really crazy powerful combos. It's about surviving that early game. And XiaoT has navigated it extremely well. Bloodyface looks like she's in trouble right now.
Yeah, this is not looking good at the moment. But I feel like this could turn very quickly in the next coming turns. It all depends on whether or not Bloodyface can pick up one of those key go wide minions. And because even though XiaoT's building up this value, he's not putting on this pressure, right? XiaoT is just kind of playing secrets and disrupting these turns, but Bloodyface doesn't even have anything to disrupt, right? Like, she's made the most powerful play that she could have pretty much every turn, and it wasn't that powerful. So if it keeps going at this pace, I feel like eventually, unless XiaoT picks up like a big definitive threat, then Bloodyface should be able to pull ahead.
Very much so. Bloodyface finds Alakir the Windlord, Murders on the Infinite, a new legendary card, Ringmaster, Watley, Battlecry, draw Mech, Dragon, and Pirate. Not really a bad card at all to just pick up. Was missing a 5-mana play on 5. And, there's a couple of things that might be useful. Just even picking up the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza might be enough to just give him that guaranteed turn 9 play if he's able to get enough hit to him on the side. And for now, this has got to be a scary play for your buddy. You don't have the ability, you don't even have the board at the moment. And it feels like a situation where the Shaman has to hope that the Evolves are so impactful that XiaoT doesn't have the time to get the resources out of his hand.
Okay, so XiaoT again went for a play to acquire a little bit more value. Bloodyface still has not taken a single point of damage, so I feel like this could be taken pretty slow. The one thing that has to be going through your mind is there is a kept card that has not been played yet. When that happens, especially in Highlander Rogue, a kept card that's not played that early on into the game, it's probably Zephrys, right? Because I feel like Edwin Van Cleef would have been played thus far, even like Underbelly Fence because of the Dragon's Horde. Okay, Devolving Missiles. And
right.
Torrent is actually incredibly good to fill the gap next turn.
Yes. This is a nice start for Bloodyface to have some tools to come back off the board. And now the Ringmaster hits the board and draws the Cobalt Sticky Finger and the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. That Sticky Finger is going to be very annoying because Bloodyface knows there's not many pirates at all. Therefore, should understand that Cobalt Sticky Finger in the hand, making that box spine knuckle is really difficult. And the hard part is that Cobalt Sticky Finger goes one level deeper in terms of dealing with weapons. Not only does it remove that weapon for their opponent, but Cobalt Sticky Finger also ensures that it's not destroyed. Therefore, Horde Pillager doesn't really activate. This is looking very good for XiaoT.
Yeah, the one thing is that Bloodyface does know that that's there because the Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and the Cobalt Sticky Finger are both the only of their kind in the deck. There's only the single dragon, which is Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, and then there's only the single pirate, which is Cobalt Sticky Finger. So she has that information to work with. So again, it's going to be about trying to develop the biggest swing turn. That's where the Zephrys Keep comes in, and it's just a matter of Bloodyface trying to set up a board that, one, either protects the weapon from being able to be Cobalt Sticky Finger oozes and presents a big enough board to where it warrants the really only board-wide clear outside of like Galakrond Kronks that XiaoT has available with the Zephyrus. Oh!
Okay. Colossus of the Moon. Pretty hard to deal with from the rogue's perspective. Even using Flick on it wouldn't exactly deal with the entire threat in itself. And so XiaoT, the only way you can remove it is to use some kind of transform or a sap effect. Oh, he has his blackjacks that are tucked deep away. It was a little bit hard to pick out from there, but looks like XiaoT is totally fine. And now that actually makes it really difficult for Bloodyface to be able to generate more threats, because that Colossus of the Moon is unplayable, TJ, unless there's some kind of wacky discount that allows it to be able to play from hand.
Yeah, it would have to be a totem getting evolved into a pint-sized summoner and then sticking for a turn, and Bloodyface playing Colossus of the Moon.
So many options.
Boom. Still
Boom.
Playable. Just not likely.
Yeah.
And there's the 10 with the red smoke. I imagine that XiaoT is going to just... Oh, no, he's going to go full tempo here. Doesn't want to give the card draw over with Blood Mage Thalnos, and also limiting board space in case Sea Giant or second Mogu comes down. Even though that Colossus of the Moon looked pretty threatening. Oh! There's got... Only 6 mana.
It's only 6 mana, not 7, because Bloodyface could still get value off the first turn that she swings with it. But yeah, you know, like XiaoT also still doesn't know exactly what the spell was that the Inspector Fireheart was able to put in the hand. And so he also needs to respect Bloodlust and other ways for the Shaman to put Rogue in his position where Rogue might just die. Because Rogue doesn't do a great job of healing compared to some of the other classes that we'll be seeing this weekend. Bloodyface wants to just get onto the board as best as she can. The second Mogu Flesh Shaper, you know, if she can stick it, will be a potentially strong candidate to slingshot her back into this game.
Yeah, but
Okay.
she's starting to run into time just because, as I mentioned, she kind of needs to go for like this double-pronged threat, right? Where XiaoT has to remove the weapon and also deal with the board state. And because of all the trade downs here, it gives XiaoT a chance to like set up a board or remove the board completely and then force Bloodyface to have both like weapon plus reload. Is there a way for XiaoT to deal with both the Sea Giant and the Mogu here? Because those are the minions that have the biggest target on their back. Zephyr, Shadow or Death, Underbelly Fence.
Well, I was thinking Flick would destroy the second Sea Giant. Or there's only one Sea Giant.
There's only one Sea Giant, yeah.
I apologize there. So that's definitely not something that you think about then. If there was a second Sea Giant, you could probably target it. So I do think that XiaoT is going to be digging for answers. Well, Cold Blood could make Underbelly Fence really powerful, but you still lack that card from another class. Going with Shiv instead to see if he can dig for more answers and manipulate Zephyrus into that Shadow Word Death removal.
How much is this worth to you?
Oh, XiaoT does have some life, so gonna go for the guaranteed kill on the Mogu Flesh Shaper because it does cost more mana. He wants to be able to go for a big mana swing with the Shadow Word Death, and he does have all this life to work with. Because Sea Giant, you know, it's still going to be able to do a lot of damage. Bloodyface should be able to still convert off of it right now. The Derailed and the Pitmaster here should be able to come down for Bloodyface if she wants to come and address this board, because, you know, I think in her mind she's still wondering a good opportunity for the Bog Spy Knuckles to come down for a definitive swing, and right now it doesn't look like it.
Good time.
I wonder if Bloodyface is also thinking about potentially trying to have the board completely and play Bog Spy Knuckles and then re-equip immediately with the second Bog Spy Knuckles? Because then if
Okay.
Kobold Sticky Finger comes out and steals the Box by Knuckles, the Horde Pillagers, which are still in the deck, won't be completely dead. That's kind of like this fringe case scenario now that the Watley, coming out of nowhere has been played, and Bloodyface knows that the Kobold Sticky Finger is in hand. Maybe that's something, but this is a wide board, and Bloodyface should be pretty confident because the Zephyrs was played with only 2 mana left available, that it's very likely that Shadow or Death was played. This situation right now is kind of why I would have liked to see XiaoT just go for the double clear last turn regardless. Instead of playing the Shiv on the Blood Mage Thalnos, just going with Zephyrus, pick Shadow or Death, Underbelly Fence Shadow or Death to have a definitive presence on board without having to worry about the Sea Giant anymore. Because now XiaoT has to spend this 2 mana to deal with this Sea Giant, or like flick it, and then hope that kind of these lackeys from Evil Miscreant, right, are gonna bail him out of this situation. But it looks like he's just gonna take it slow. But now the Shadow or Death. Oh, he's gonna go flick plus Shadow or Death. Flick on the 3/2 Shadow or Death.
Complete respect for that missing card information on XiaoT's side. If it's Bloodlust, it would have actually, I think, been 29 exact damage. So XiaoT has to respect that possibility. And, I think that's the mark of a player that really understands what kind of position that he's in. He feels so ahead in terms of resource count. He's got some of the most powerful cards or powerful answers to Bloodyface's plays that they just needs to not get careless and somehow lose simply because he was just a little bit too lenient on the board state with a bunch of 1/1s and 1/2s and 3/2s. Bloodyface picks up Lightning Bloom, a card that pretty much useless at this point. Now Bloodyface is going to go for the Box by Knuckles, understanding this is going to be stolen by the Kobold Sticky Finger, but otherwise Bloodyface just gives up the turn and tempo. Perhaps maybe there's even something that evolves that could be very useful this turn that can even put momentum back in her favor.
Oh,
okay.
I mean, these are incredibly decent. And again, that what we mentioned earlier of if XiaoT wants to Kobold Sticky Finger this, then he's not doing anything else with this turn. He can play. He'll have mana for 1 lackey, right? And they're both spell lackeys, so there won't be any immediate impact on this board. He could Kobold Sticky Finger and then steal the weapon and attack into something. So maybe it's Betrayal.
Betrayal does look good. It's a small form of area of effect. Not the best tool for Rogue. Also does kind of capitalize on the positioning that a lot of players do, because most people joke a lot of times. If you watch streamers or you watch the comments, sometimes people always joke, oh, you didn't play around Betrayal positioning. But, in this case, it actually does end up being relevant if Bloodyface ends up making something that conveniently can kill 2 other targets. So the steal comes down. XiaoT was already Bloodyface was already expecting that, and now XiaoT can go for the evolve. Finds a rusher. Finds Restless Mummy. Oh no!
And a
Backbreaking. Oh geez, and a Hogger. You're right. This is going perfectly for XiaoT. Horde Pillager right after the weapon got stolen and not destroyed. Uh-oh.
This is a big uh-oh.
Yeah, and we're revealing our biases being from the Americas. Even though I did pick XiaoT as my Choose Your Champion for PAX because I also feel like he was destined for success. Little did I know that I was put in a situation where I have to choose, and I really don't want to. But at the same time, XiaoT looks like he is firmly in the driver's seat here for game number 1. Bloodyface has 0 good plays this turn. At best, can just mitigate. I guess still has a little bit of damage through the form of Torrent to push through. But without that weapon being destroyed, I mean, is Horde Pillager just played as a 4-mana 4/2 for tempo here?
Probably, right? Because you have to rely on Cage Match Custodian or weapon off the top. So I think you Torrent the Hogger, trade over with Il'gynoth. That also pushes the 2 damage to face, and then just probably ship it. Ship it all to face and play Horde Pillager for tempo just to try and protect your minions.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, so Bloodyface wants to play for the long game, I guess. By not playing Horde Pillager,
Yes.
that means Bloodyface is committed to either one, not playing this Horde Pillager at all until 2 swings of a Box by Knuckles, which would have to be pretty much off the top, or thinking that she needs to hold on to Horde Pillager in case she draws the Box by Knuckles off the top to go for a 5-drop. Because the Horde Pillager
Right.
a 4/2 is not going to do much, but the Horde Pillager as a 5-drop could be something.
Yeah, that's right. Perhaps Bloodyface is simply looking for direct damage. You could, go for chargers, right? Tundra Rhino being a 5 cost and evolving additional beasts with it. Finding just straight up ways to burn your opponent. I think at this stage, Bloodyface is, bargaining for answers. Given that XiaoT is going to continue to dissect the board. A little bit annoying. Take just additional damage and be down to 8. Bloodyface still has a little bit of opportunity here,
Oh yeah, I like the
but
play
the clock
dries.
is ticking.
Oh no!
Oh no! Second Horde Pillager is devastating. I think that's just going to be a little bit too much, unless Bloodyface actually does not take game-ending damage here, and then finds a way to again do exactly what we're talking about, which is find a way to evolve a charger and get that direct damage in.
It's just that the Instructor Fireheart's gone, so the ability to kind of sneak a lethal out of nowhere is pretty non-existent. Thinking
Sure.
about what could be the perfect draws, looking at the cards left in deck, there is it's the double
There's
cage
not
match
much,
custodian,
DJ.
right? And the
There's-
double novice engineer.
Yeah.
There has to be like this big definitive swing. There's also Faces Corruptor, but at this point, fighting for board really isn't a win condition anymore. It's base damage, right? It's getting boxed by Knuckles, evolving into charge damage. Like the
Right.
winning play for Bloodyface is to rip cage match custodian off the top, box by Knuckles, attack. It evolves into a Wolf Rider at the 3-drop from the cage match custodian. But-
Backstab.
XiaoT has taunts, so
Yes. XiaoT has taunt. XiaoT has 6, 7, 8, 9, plus another 6, 15, plus 5, 20 damage on the board, it looks like. Going for the Wonders Wand, which discounts the next 3 draws. I mean, this is a world of endless potential here from the Wonders Wand of what can generate Edwin Van Cleef with a Shadow Step available. That is a huge minion that I don't think Bloodyface can deal with. And by doing so, has actually opted out of a taunt opportunity here.
I'm curious on this one. So there was no lethal outs at all. None of the cards in his deck: Lord Keeper, Polkel, Galakron, Seal Fate, Dirty Tricks, Wand Thief. Wand Thief, there was no lethal outs. There was a potential like Wand Thief into Frostbolt, but now Bloodyface does have an out to win. Cage Match Custodian, which draws the box by Knuckles and then evolves into Wolf Rider.
Right.
And can Totem as well, which can
Okay.
also evolve into Bluegill Warrior. It's still available because the Lightning Bloom will make back the Mana Novice Engineer. So this is Cage Match Custodian? Nope, that's game.
Yeah. Does not have it. And I mean, XiaoT drew 25 cards deep. Just kind of goes to show you how far XiaoT was ahead. And
Yeah.
Bloodyface is tapping out. Game number 1 goes to XiaoT's Highlander Rogue, the big X factor in this series. How would this Rogue perform? The answer was that it starts off with a 1-0 lead against a rather aggressive deck that I think that people were potentially looking at to get a very quick win. But I feel like that's what the Shaman does. It either wins very powerfully with a bunch of momentum on its side through a bunch of tempo and evolving minions, and you can't really keep up, or tend to kind of struggle to maintain the board or even get back onto the board if you definitively clear it and get slightly ahead. And I think it's exacerbated by the fact that Bloodyface's draws were just really not helping her in that spot.
Yeah. I still, XiaoT got away with the win there, but that play at the end, I think you just play the Shield of Galakron, right? You're setting up lethal either way. It's you can just put a couple minions on the side. There's really not much way to come back from that point, from Bloodyface's perspective. So, gave Bloodyface a potential out that probably could have afforded not to. But overall, and I guess, Dan, we can let the viewers in on a little secret here. We play tested all of these initial matches for the World Championship. This is exactly how our playtest match started, where it was Highlander Rogue versus Evolved Shaman, double DH ban, and the Highlander Rogue took game 1 against Evolved Shaman, and then we, Dan, as the superior region, reverse swept. Or not reverse swept,
that's right.
3-0'd from that point on. So
it was one of those things where TJ lost game number 1 to Sottle, and TJ was piloting the Shaman, and Sottle was the Highlander Rogue, and as per EU custom, they high rolled their Highlander decks, and then was able to crush us. It wasn't even close. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 perfect cards. And then I said, TJ, hey, let's just try for the next few games here. And he's like, all right. And then we 3-0'd them right after.
Yeah, for the Evolved Shaman game, also I was just letting my son just click my mouse and do whatever. So,
wow, way to throw your 2-year-old son under the bus.
Yeah. He just likes the lights on my mouse. He likes to press the button. So,
right. They discredit the theory that 2-year-olds could even pilot Evolved Shaman to Legend. But going into game number 2 here, we have to find out if the Libram Paladin from Bloodyface will be able to do it. Paladin's been a class that's been, a lot of people love Paladin, especially mid-range Paladin decks. It's been kind of an archetype that's been around for a long time in Hearthstone. And now Libram Paladin, when it first came out in Hearthstone, we weren't really sure whether or not it could be good enough. But slowly over time, getting more and more support, it's been very meta for the past, couple expansions here. And now we see Paladin actually be very legitimate. Before, it was kind of a tournament-ish deck, but people argued it was too predictable or didn't have enough range. Now we see the animated broomsticks come in and give it a lot of opportunity to fight back onto the board. And also this preposterously strong curve that it can start off with early on. Paladin's a very serious threat to any slow deck that's a little bit too slow on the startup to be able to respond to some of its early threats.
Yeah, it's a very unique deck, and that's kind of what I like about it, where it has all of these, different facets. I guess you can call them win conditions, but they're not like tried and true win conditions. They're just different ways that you can play at certain stages of the game. Animated Broomstick gives you ways to make big swings onto board states, lets you get extra value out of reduced Libram of Wisdom. You also, like you said, you can just have those crazy tempo starts where you start out with Aldor Attendant, first day of school, flood with 1-drops, Hand of Adal, Libram of Wisdom, and aggro down. And then you have those, the kind of late game strategies where you fall behind early on board, then you use Libram of Justice to fight back, and Libram of Hope to kind of stick that damage. And even though the lists haven't changed much, right, between before Madness at the Dark Moon Fair and then now, right, some have we have the Dragon package here for Bloodyface with Amber Watchers and the Red Scale Dragon Tamer. But it's only the Red Scale Dragon Tamer that's new. It's just small changes. Because the rest of the metagame has changed, it's kind of pushed Libram Paladin up because it does have a lot better matchups spread across the board. And with all that said, I still think it is potentially the weak link in Bloodyface's lineup. She's definitely got some game here because Libram Paladin is one of those decks that even its poor matchups are not super poor. You can always find a way to win, right? It's like those 45 to 48% matchups that you need to try and win. So XiaoT going to move to Evolved Shaman. And he's a little bit different than Bloodyface's. There's no brooms in it. There's a little bit more kind of like direct damage and board control tools with Serpentine Portal and Storm Strike. And there's also like the Inara Storm Crash, which I'm not sold on so much in this deck. It's a little bit of extra damage. It's recurring damage. It's like this 5-drop that's not dependent on anything else that you can just play, and it's threatening. But it's the interaction with Boxbind Knuckles it's kind of counterintuitive. Because Wind Fury seems super cool with Boxbind Knuckles, but then it evolves the Inara, so you lose the Wind Fury, and that it always made me rethink including it in the deck. But I do think this can be a little bit more of an aggressive variation, not so much focused on the combos of going wide and playing Sea Giants and Mogus, but more focused on just pressure, wave after wave after wave.
Yeah, getting some extra damage, right? With Storm Strike, Serpent Shine Portal. This is sort of a hybrid fusion of an Evolved Shaman and an aggressive Shaman. Some of the aggro Shamans really played heavy burn at the beginning of that, where you try to capitalize off an Nara Storm Crash, and you use Doomhammer and Rock Hammer Weapon, and use these really powerful hit them in everything. XiaoT's combined some of that package without the Doomhammer with the evolved stuff that's been very solid for tempo, because the aggro Shaman tends to get blown out if it loses board too early. This one seems to be a little bit better at fighting back. Speaking of fighting back, Bloodyface starts off with a Sludge Slurper of her own on turn number 1, thanks to the first day at school. And that's already kind of putting XiaoT, on the back foot just to start things off here.
Yeah, not the greatest of 1-drops, I'd say, from Bloodyface, but definitely solid. South Sea Deccan, there's Double Hammer of the Naru, Libram of Justice. That can find some use later. It could also just be played early as a 2-1 to try and contest things. And I do like this Penflinger use from Bloodyface. There's no spells in hand, no Librams in hand.
Sorry, cut you off, TJ.
Oh, we just go for it. Code him up.
Mean,
Lightning Bloom, Coin, Boxbind Knuckles, double Dread Corsair, and let's move to game 3.
Oh, geez. This could be a real quick one. Not 1, but 2 Dread Corsairs. Now, Paladin does have some tools to potentially deal with it, but it's also going to lead to a ton of damage unless XiaoT gets some weak evolves off this Dread Corsair.
Little time.
Thinking about what he wants to potentially swing into, and you can see Bloodyface already frustrated. Like, what kind of opening hand is this? It is the possible strongest turn 2 play for XiaoT. Finds okay-ish minions, but the important thing is that he's ahead. And now Bloodyface, she doesn't have Lord Barov in the hand. I think that was one possibility for her to come back. Does not have a Libram of Justice to look forward to if she had played the Aldor Attendant. XiaoT, the only thing that I think that you could potentially argue against, XiaoT had this really small possibility of summoning a Doomsayer or evolving into a Doomsayer off the 2-mana minion. That's such a low likelihood, and you want to really Paladin. So XiaoT very much doing well here in this early game. The 5-drops aren't as impactful as I thought they would be. You kind of expect to see an average or 4 or 5 in that line, and so XiaoT definitely low roll there. Second of all, not that great either. What? Wait, is this actually doable for Bloodyface?
Yeah, it's possible. It's going to take probably a Libram of Justice at some point here. But Bloodyface has both animated broomsticks. Could go Solid's Pride animated broomstick, just trade over one of these 6-drops to limit. Because the Sludge Slurper was played, XiaoT would have to have exactly Lightning Bloom plus Boxbind Knuckles to like kind of re-go again. There's also like Lord Barov, which isn't out here, and because the Solid's Pride is going to be drawing Novice Engineer, second Penflinger. I think that's it.
I think that's it. But the most important thing you outline, which Bloodyface needs to stop, this early game aggression coming from XiaoT. That does have more gas in the tank. We'll have access to 3 mana crystals, which is perfect for the Custodian and the Witchy Lackey to keep that evolve train going, just to consistently add more stats every turn. For 9 this turn. Scale off.
It-
Nasty
Yeah.
to deal with. It's not super good in this deck. It only generates on itself. It's meaty. It's hard to kill. Bloodyface does not find any way to deal with it right now.
It's still the same amount of power from 6 to 7 on the XiaoT, so that's one thing. But again, there's no Librams for this Aldor Truthseeker. Even though banking the heal from Amber Watcher seems reasonable, Bloodyface probably has to just hope for like perfect cards off the top. So if Aldor Truthseeker is played, that would mean Libram of Justice off the top would cost 3, which is enough to Libram of Justice triple one with animated broomstick to clear 3 things off the board or 4 things off the board. It's just now Bloodyface knows that there's a box by Knuckles in XiaoT's hand. So definitely worried about just straight up dying. So I think this is the...
Yes. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage off box spine Knuckles. 4 damage is all that separates. 6 damage rather. I double counted one of the 2 drops. Is what stands between him and winning game number 2. And it's Lord Barov or bust for Bloodyface right now. Does have one more chance with the Novice Engineer.
Yep, Lord Barov. I don't see anything else.
The good news is that there's no Death Rattle minions to still make it threatening enough, and XiaoT still only has 4 damage, but Bloodyface has to dig with this Novice Engineer and has to hit this 1 out of 17. And does not find it. That looks like it is game number 2 in the books. And this is what we're talking about. Evolved Shaman, so good at utilizing some of its most powerful explosive hands that end the game so quickly that it feels like if you don't have access to your definitive area effect removal, you are dead. Bloodyface going for another evolve attempt, see if there's any possibility, but there is not. That shall do it. XiaoT 2-0 for Bloodyface.
Yeah, really well done so far. I think the road game was not quite as straightforward, and even maybe with some stumbles at the end, I still felt like that was good. But that game, obviously, those hands can sometimes play themselves, but just maximizing face damage, maximizing damage on board with the evolve with the 3 mana left on the overload. Not really caring so much about minions on board from Bloodyface's side because it's all about the face damage there, and that minion really isn't going to be doing much to you in a list that doesn't play like Lightforge Blessing or something like that. So even though he was given the tools to succeed, you still have to put them together. So nicely done by XiaoT. It's just the warrior remaining for XiaoT.
Warriors, all that remains. It is a bomb warrior featuring Range Caliber. Some of the new cards gives that warrior even more removal tools, one of them being Minefield. As you can see, just dealing 5 damage, randomly split across all minions onto the board. Warrior definitely got through a lot of iterations on what it could look like for a championship caliber deck. There's been some people playing in Rage variants, people playing combo variants, control variants, even just Cthulhu War variants at the very beginning of the expansion. But most people have gone back to what is tried and true. And how fitting would it be as well, because last time we saw XiaoT at a World Championship, he was one of the only people bringing Bomb Warrior when everyone else was bringing other variants of Warrior. And he was like, no, trust me, Bomb Warrior is really good, and everyone else should have brought it. And we all saw it in action. We're like, yeah, actually, Bomb Warrior was definitely a really good bring. So perhaps some unfinished business on his end.
Yeah, and Bomb Warrior, the final deck here. I talked about how Highlander Rogue was the deck that I was worried about for XiaoT, but it was mostly because of the volatility of the draw. But on paper, the Bomb Warriors actually, once bans are accounted for, the weakest deck in XiaoT's lineup against the 3 from Bloodyface. Bloodyface does have 3 favored matchups coming up, especially since XiaoT is playing the like non-risky skipper Armorsmith version of Bomb Warrior, playing the more straight up like Minefield, Sword and Board. I feel like Bloodyface's decks are like aggressive enough so that she can squeak by and still have favorite matchups, but it's Highlander Hunter, Broom Paladin with extra heal, and Evolve Shaman against Bomb Warrior. So even though the matchups can be close, I do think that this one's not over yet. But 3 chances to win with Bomb Warrior, 3 chances to just have that one game where every bomb you shuffle is right off the top.
Yes.
That can happen. So I'm still thinking that XiaoT is favored to win this one overall, but looking for Bloodyface to make it close. Definitely got the tools to do so.
Yeah, and like we said, we've seen the capability of what the Shaman can do, and Bloodyface is right there as well. She has the Bog Spine Knuckles and the Lightning Bloom. Did get overloaded, does not have the Dread Corsair, so not quite the turn 2 that XiaoT had previously. But XiaoT also has Brawl, right? And that's a card that I think, while Paladin can't play, they have cards in their deck that do things like that. And XiaoT escapes scot-free. And now Bloodyface could go for this early Bog Spine Knuckles, but without the Dread Corsair, is going to most likely just stop there or go for a very minimal amount of Evolve. The one caveat to that of what I do enjoy about a Bog Spine Knuckles play is that Bloodyface just picked up the Horde Pillager. So she has lots of charges of Evolve to get out. If she were to maximize it, it'd be 4 turns of Evolving. So those 2 drops will eventually become very threatening over time.
And I kind of just like getting up here because, as you mentioned, multiple charges, and also you do not want to allow the Bomb Warrior to just have their way because they have like these tools to remove. They can kind of curate the board how they want to for their removal. These are pretty good, especially the Pint-Sized Summoner. That's actually surprisingly threatening just because of the fact that Bloodyface, even though she has the coin, she's going to the next turn with only 2 mana available. If you can like Desert Hair without having to use the coin, and use the coin for a more powerful play later on, that's actually a pretty big deal. So needs to be with in order to prevent that from happening. Looks like Firehearts to draw off the top. Yep.
Yeah, not really too much more to go for. Bloodyface could end up saving the weapon, which is what she chooses, just because I really like the Derail Coaster opportunity with Sea Giant. The more minions she's holding, the more 1/1 rushers will appear out and potentially give her swing plays or even just board flood opportunities. XiaoT immediately with a shield block into a cutting class. Seems like it's a card draw turn here for the most part to try and get the answers for that inevitable swing. Your opponent not innervated. Sorry, I'm used to calling that just from habit from old days. It's the Lightning Bloom into the weapon and chose not to swing on the second turn. That's a really big tell of what Bloodyface is going to be doing for the following turn. So this was a really good read from XiaoT to hold on and not overreact here.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's actually interesting because Parade Leader is a really impactful minion. If XiaoT ended up playing a minion onto the board, Parade Leader gives a rush minion +2 attack, and it turns out Bloodyface has lots of rush opportunities in this Shaman, but, there's nothing to actually rush into, so if Bloodyface ends up just going for the Evolve, it's going to be okay.
I mean, it's threatening, right? I wouldn't even swing here with the weapon. I don't even think there's a reason to, because this is going to force a brawl, right? I don't know if Blade Storm is enough here to deal with it.
Okay.
The Duelist is drawn, so there's still more
doing
waves.
Too much.
Yeah, okay. Minefield. I guess Minefield and Blade Storm are the odds here, but like, what are the odds that you put more power on the board? 2 attack is pretty average for the 2 drops.
Right.
All right, that's better.
Okay.
That's way better.
Yeah.
Temple Berserker is very good.
Yeah, exactly. So if XiaoT goes for a removal play, chances are Bloodyface should end up with a couple of Reborn minions with plus attack and pressure. And so, having those sticky minions that are difficult to remove is going to make it more challenging for XiaoT whether or not he chooses to use his AoE. The other side of it is that XiaoT also could just simply remove the Dread Inferno. And think that if, Bloodyface has to show a little bit more power because, he can go. This is the only form of AoE in his hand, and if he uses Brawl and Bloodyface somehow has additional reload, XiaoT is in a really difficult spot.
Yes.
Wait a second. I was just speaking hypothetically, TJ.
Oh my goodness.
That makes it way easier to make this call.
The third Brawl.
Oh, and Temple of Berserker survives, which I think Bloodyface actually... I'm not sure where... if she would not wanted that to happen, because then she would keep an additional minion while still threatening with a 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
So, with Horde Pillager played, corrupts the Pitmaster. Corrupt, of course, a new mechanic from the Dark Moonfarer expansion, where if you play a card that costs more than the corrupted card, you get the upgraded version of it. In this case, Pitmaster summons 2 duelists. Therefore, you get double the evolve. You can see how this is starting to become quite threatening. But that second brawl, rather the third brawl, as TJ had said, going to be problematic. Oh, wait. Bloodyface just evolved one of his 2-mana minions into Zixor.
Okay.
Which will shuffle Zixor Prime into the deck and give Bloodyface some late game claws and teeth.
Yeah, and that's
her, excuse me.
that is even more impactful just because of the fact that because Zixor creates a copy of itself. Each of the Zixor copies is 8 costs. So when you're evolving a Zixor Prime, if you were to with a Boxbind Knuckles, you are evolving into 3 9-drops.
Okay.
So that could really be a late game push. All right, so running out of charges here, at least the ones that are in hand. There's still Cage Match Custodian, 1 natural Boxbind Knuckles, 1 Horde Pillager still left in the deck for Bloodyface. And I also, Instructor Fireheart can also sometimes be a decent reload because you can find like ways to draw or Soul of the Murloc or Vivid Spores.
Okay.
Which
Soul of the Murloc.
which means that you don't have to attack and still, force your opponent to remove. Like here, no point to attack, or not no point, but there is an excuse not to attack. I guess you could do it afterwards too, the Soul of the Murloc.
Right, you could do it afterwards. The Inspector Fireheart effect is on the spell, not the minion. So not to be confused with, say, as you were pointing out earlier, evolving minions that you can't use their effect, like Inara Storm Crash. Finds a Bloodlust, so that's like the card that, XiaoT was like playing around. And so both players finding really powerful cards as follow-ups off of their discovers. And now XiaoT has to, 1, deal with this threat, and 2, can he survive long enough to withstand additional mystery card that actually adds extra burn to Bloodyface's range to end the game and start climbing back in the series?
So there is lethal presented. If the full board is removed and there's just the 3 1/1s left remaining. Oh, this board is also very awkward for Bladestorm.
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, you can Shield Slam to help manipulate stuff and coerce. It feels like you got to use some of these resources here. But the mana distribution is what's weird too, as you were talking about. So, looks like XiaoT is going to float something here unless he quits the weapon. Okay. I wasn't really expecting this.
Bloodlust is on his mind again. This is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
What? Prioritizing the 1/1 like that?
Right. Instead of just removing like the biggest threat. Oh, the Custodian here to get that weapon and fetch it.
Wait. You cash in the Bloodlust here, right?
5-mana deals 6 damage. I think the power of Bloodlust is that Bloodyface has additional damage after his board gets destroyed by AoE. But, it's an interesting question because is 6 damage what you feel like you need from this perspective to close out the game?
Yeah, and
don't know.
also, are you going to get more than 6 damage in the future, especially if you're evolving your minions, right? Like, this board is very decently sized against Bladestorm. This one is
Well,
also decently sized against Bladestorm, but not as much
Right.
because of the swing onto the taunt minion. That one seems relatively easier to clear, and it's a waste of the soul of the Murlocs too, right? But I guess the Lackey
Yes.
protects it and the taunts protect it. So this we're talking about the third brawl.
Yeah, the third brawl. And that's a guaranteed clear with Bladestorm. So you could brawl in Bladestorm, whatever comes out. Let's say the Truth Seeker survives, the big 4/6 taunt. Then XiaoT still could have a definitive removal for it. But the question is there a better play, right? Like, XiaoT immediately spots that. He knows that that's a play. You know, what happens if the middle of the road goes down? Like, let's say the Dread Corsair survives, a 3/3. Does XiaoT swing at it and just hope that there's no extra damage from Bloodyface's hand? Now he starts to think about cards like Lightning Bolt and other direct damage spells that are in the Shaman arsenal.
Well, definitely Mad Aspect seems like the best out of these options.
Yeah, having another form of AoE. At that point,
The fourth
XiaoT's had
brawl.
4 layers of it.
Yeah.
Another brawl. Like, shaking the head. I mean, she has had to deal with 3 brawls so far, but the Truth Seeker survived, and that's the best case scenario. And that's
game.
lethal right here. Bloodlust should be able to end it. And XiaoT's Bomb Warrior not able to survive that early game aggression. Bloodyface, she's on the board.
Yeah, so I honestly like the play that you mentioned, right? Of going for the brawl and then Bladestorm if a minion's too big for you to handle after that. Because let's say you don't get to armor up with that play, right? So XiaoT would have been at 7 health at the end of that turn. So you're still dead to any 3 damage burst, like you mentioned, Lightning Bolt, Serpentine Portal, but you cut out the Bloodlust and the minion buffs, like Wind Fury, for instance, as outs for lethal, and then you have the rebound of being able to go for Evil Quartermaster to try and put yourself out of range of certain things. So, I think that Brawl, Bladestorm, Brawl Coerce, anything to just definitively kill the entire board and then stabilize with Evil Quartermaster was probably better odds for him to win that game.
Yeah, well, important win for obvious reasons. Bloodyface can't lose another game in order to continue the series, and XiaoT just needed to close out that third game. But, kind of we talked about is just, can this Highlander Hunter with, cards like Lordkeeper Polkelt, which become a little bit of a liability if you start shuffling things like bombs to the top of the deck, and your opponent's like, oh, I don't actually have to shuffle any more bombs, I'm just going to draw it next turn. That kind of dynamic is always awkward. And not to mention, of course, the Highland Hunter might just get shut off because they have duplicates of bomb shuffled in the deck. So this could be a matchup where Bloodyface crushes Hunter because, mid-range / pressured Hunter decks are really good at effectively getting warriors that don't really armor up well, like Bomb Warrior. But Bomb Warrior has a lot of tools to disrupt the Hunter. So these ones really often do come to how well can you get that early game foundation to set up against the Warrior. Can you make the removal super inefficient or very awkward and get XiaoT into situations that we saw last game?
Yeah, this Highland Hunter list, I'm a little bit biased because in practice, I don't think I lost a game with a list that's similar to this one. Though my draw variance is just incredible. I'm just a master at Highlander Hunter draws for some reason. It's a gift. Though also sometimes a curse.
It's because TJ. So TJ is a warrior lover historically, and therefore he is a natural hater of things like Hunter. And so TJ, you you either die the control warrior or live long enough to see yourself become the Hunter.
Yeah, I think I was bit by a radioactive Rexar, so that's just it's something that I have to live with. But I do like the variation with the Rhino. It does add a little bit more variance to your Scavenger's ingenuity in the early game, because in a lot of matchups you just want to hit the Wolpertinger or Phase Stalker. But especially in like these control-y matchups, you're okay with getting a 7/7 with Rush that a lot of times is going into like a one attack minion, right? Or something quite small in a control matchup that you do get that extra damage. You get to cash in on it immediately, and also have a threat that keeps its place. So we shall see. The Highlander hunters of the current times are very low curve. We were making a joke the other day about how in like the deck list graphics that we show, Zephyrus used to be like halfway down the first page in Highlander Hunter. Now it's halfway down the second page, which means it's one of the most expensive cards in the deck, and it costs 2 and starts with Z, and we go in alphabetical order. Just a kind of an interesting evolution of the deck in order for it to keep up with the metagame. But let's get into it. XiaoT, again, last deck remaining is that Bomb Warrior. This time going up against, in my opinion, even tougher matchup in Highlander Hunter from Bloodyface that can definitely pile on the aggression early. And Lord Keeper Polkelt is on the play. Is always a debate, but again, low curve Highlander Hunter, I'd just try and go for the on curve plays.
Yep, very much so. So looking okay so far for Bloodyface with a quick mulligan. XiaoT, thinking about some of these other awkward combinations with Minefield. They don't really look great at all. Pitching everything. See if you can find something better. Find something way better. Finds 2 early removal tools in the form of Sword and Board and Minefield. Has a couple of early game minions. Finds Corsair Cash to make sure that he has weapons in case Hunter draws absolutely awfully and he can even get ahead.
That is a hand. Whew. He's got the draw for the weapon. He's got early removal to not fall behind on tempo. Mm-hmm. This is good. This is I think this is a good start from XiaoT. Obviously, though, this is a competitive environment. Both players know the exact 30 for 30 card deck list from their opponents. Deck trackers are permitted. So they both know what cards they need to look out for, what cards they need to play around. So I imagine Bloodyface here is just going to go for an Imprisoned Felmoth so you can play around the possibility of Minefield. It's also just the best on curve play usually. In Highlander Hunter, it's going to make things a little bit awkward for XiaoT because the Minefield now, if Bloodyface were to play on curve, which she still has one kept card in hand with the Inconspicuous Rider, then Minefield's going to start to lose value as this board continues to kind of grow in health once this Imprisoned Felmaw emerges.
Yes, very much so. So while, these Wolpentingers, they're kind of annoying, small little demon rabbits just kind of gnawing away at you. You got to show a little bit of restraint here. Or you can just simply try to be mana efficient. But either way, the real big fish to fry comes a lot later here for XiaoT. So I don't really anticipate him to go too wild in terms of his response. Corsair Cash, a little bit greedy, which I like. I don't think that 2 extra armor is going to make that big difference maker, but perhaps having that extra weapon for removal can be.
So one thing, before we discuss Bloodyface's turn, one thing that you do have to be wary of when playing against this version of Highlander Hunter is not to fall behind on like tempo/health gain, because that chip damage is going to mean a lot. Because you don't have the big burst of armor in this Bomb Warrior deck that you would in a Risky Skipper version. You do have shield blocks, you do have Sword and Board, but you don't have the possibility of Risky Skipper, Armor Smith, something to kind of swing the board and buy you back health. You have to be honest with your mana and honest with your life total and realize that you're going to die pretty quickly if you don't deal with boards fast enough. I still do like the little bit of greed there by going for the Corsair Cash Runs Caliber, just because it accomplishes a lot. Can activate Cutting Class if he draws that. But that's just something to be wary of.
Yes, agreed. Okay, XiaoT has a second Evil Quartermaster. Not really too many appetizing plays here, given that the Imprisoned Felmaw wakens up next turn and deals a solid 5, and it's a 5/4, complicating things like Minefield. So is it a Minefield pull the trigger right now? Because Minefield Sword and Board is only 7 damage, and it's likely that your opponent's going to have more health than that next turn. Chooses the Evil Quartermaster again, trying to bait his opponent deeper.
Yeah. Also, this will possibly absorb damage, and it does, and set up for a possibility of Sword and Board next turn. Sword and Board plus Minefield could remove the entire board. And so, looking at the secret spread, the Inconspicuous Rider did pull Snake Trap. Looking at Bloodyface's list, she does play Pack Tactics, Freezing Trap. Pack Tactics, Freezing Trap, Snake Trap. That's it? 3? Yeah,
no open the cages?
No open the cages. No, just Pack Tactics, Freezing, and Snake.
Okay. It's a smaller package. We usually see open the cages, which is a pretty solid secret that summons a nano companion if you control 2 or more minions at the start of your turn. I guess from Bloodyface's perspective, is it more important to protect his Felmaw with the Divine Shield? I think it is. Force your opponent to use either 2 layers of removal. Can even protect it through a through just more additional minions. So that way, if your opponent has additional small removal, Blade Storm can't reach it either. Right now, it's just Coerce that actually kills it cleanly.
Oh!
I mean, it's okay. It's not the best.
It's a full clear with Bladestorm Minefield.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah,
I like that actually.
What
It's
now?
2 cards to kill 5 of your opponents.
Yeah, so that's quite good. There's also, if he wants to get a little bit greedy, Sword and Board plus Minefield, which there would be 6 health remaining. Or 7 health remaining? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it'd be 7 health remaining, so that's not quite as good. I just like going for the full clear here. You're at 23, you're healthy, you got plenty of armor gain, you have either Wrench Caliber or Evil Quartermaster loaded up next turn for reload. This is looking good for XiaoT. I'm very happy with this spot if I'm XiaoT. Well, Bladestorm just used and it was off the top, so...
Right. Petting Zoo summons a 3/3 Strider and then repeats for the CPU control. So, Bloodyface only just needs to have a little bit of the extra pressure to keep going. Then Dragonbane can hit the board next turn. Of course, reminds me of the Spellstone from back in the day. XiaoT immediately picks up the Minefield number 2, and that's another clear with Sword and Board if he needs it.
Yeah, could even fit in an armor up here.
Oh, jeez.
And have an answer to anything that comes out next turn with Evil Quartermaster plus Coerce. If something big comes out, which has the answer to Dragonbane, still a turn away from Dino Tamer Brand at that point. Now there is maybe XiaoT's thinking about what does a Wrench Caliber look like on a turn like this, where there's 2 turns from my opponent to be able to play Dino Tamer Brand. Can I shuffle the 2 bombs in before that happens and shut off the possibility of it? But if you do that, then you're taking the damage that you would have otherwise taken from Dino Tamer Brand to do that play. So you can rule that one out pretty quickly and just keep killing everything that Bloodyface plays because she's running out of stuff.
She is indeed running out of stuff. Dragonbane can deal a solid 7, put XiaoT down to 19, or rather 18, 5. And XiaoT has the removal through Coerce, and just keep threat checking every single turn. Bloodyface is whittling down the life total slowly. Yep. But it is looking like XiaoT has cleared the first major checkpoint, which is Bloodyface not having an on-curve play to load up tempo.
So this isn't over yet, just because of how this matchup works. XiaoT is not really going to stick big minions outside of Deathwing Mad Aspect or Blastmaster Boom. So Wrench Caliber hasn't even been equipped yet. It's likely that this turn is not a Wrench Caliber turn. It looks like Evil Quartermaster plus Coerce. Well, if Dino Tamer Brand comes out exactly on 7, there's no answer from XiaoT. So maybe it's not coerced because of that.
Not only that, I believe Bloodyface has been holding this Dwarven Sharpshooter since the very beginning of the game. And when Highlander Hunter holds cards for this long, because it's a low-curve Highlander deck, it tends to be something really powerful like the Dino Tamer Brand. But you can see Bloodyface has nothing left, and she shakes her head, recognizing that this is a bad situation. Very bad.
So, XiaoT still does not know what the secret is, because they're all minion attack secrets. It's all freezing trap, snake trap, pack tactics. So I think XiaoT there is worried about what does it look like if you just like play Owl on to save Coerce, and you play Owl and then you have to attack into Dragonbane and unsilence it because you're pack tacticsing it.
Pack tactics.
Pack tactics. So I think that's why the Coerce come out, and he was just hoping that wasn't Dino Tamer Brand, but
you're right.
There's still good options off the top here for Bloodyface.
Yep.
Dino Tamer Brand, since bombs have not been shuffled yet. Brynling's Rifle to try and disrupt with secrets. Lorekeeper Polkelt to try and draw both of those aforementioned cards. Voracious Reader with an empty hand. Zephyrus, right, before bombs are shuffled in. So there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but XiaoT 19 seems pretty healthy. It's just you got to get those bombs swinging, but he's now out of removal. So even though it seems like he's had answers for all this, he is now out of answers. And looks like he will have to acknowledge the secret at some point. And it is Snake, and there's no board-wide removal now, so...
Yeah. Chooses to not attack. Sees no freezing trap. And starts the Wrench Caliber train.
Yeah, ignore the minions, sure.
Wow. Right. Very aggressive stance. I was kind of anticipating XiaoT to clear off a little bit of it, but... Oh, no. Not looking good as a pickup Intrepid Initiate. Definitely one of the weakest cards that she could pick up. I mean, that's kind of the risk that you incur, though, with the Hunter in this kind of stage of the game. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 1-drops in this deck, or 10 one-mana cards. It's just very likely that you end up drawing them as the course of the game. It's just that the fact that Bloodyface that she picked up so many of them consecutively, it just really stings. And I think that she recognized that there was like an opportunity, right? Had she picked up, Voracious Reader or the Dino Tamer Brand, now is the time. Because another issue is that with the bombs being shuffled in, XiaoT is disabling next turn the Highlander cards unless Bloodyface was able to pick it up that very next draw. Or draws the bomb immediately on the following turns.
Let me work my magic.
I wonder what the thought process on a potential hold here is. Snakes. It is Snake Trap. So if she plays the extra 1-drop, the snakes there'll only be 2 snakes. So maybe this is kind of a feign for pack tactics to try and change XiaoT's play. Shield block into Cutting Class. Great pickups. Because the upgrade is in hand, so Cutting Class is going to cost 1. Another Cutting Class. Can upgrade again, so it's free.
Yeah. I think I kind of want Cobalt Lackey to come out just to take out some more aggression opportunities out of Bloodyface. So I think I would like that. I think we're just like in such a good spot, and Cutting Class is available next turn anyways. I'm not. What I'm basically trying to say is I don't think any one draw off Cutting Class is going to change the way XiaoT wants to play this turn. So you can save it for next turn.
Yeah. So you just armor up here, swing face.
Yes.
Oh nope, Secret's gone, so you can swing into a minion here. Only 4 damage on board, 2 bombs in the deck, so don't have to worry about Highlander cards. But if it's like Bomb Zephyrus off the top, that would be lethal.
Okay. Oh, skips over one of the bombs. Does not find anything else meaningful, though. Freezing Trap and Tour Guide. I mean, that was a potential out here for Bloodyface, was to find the Freezing Trap, or instead of that Freezing Trap, it was Dire Tamer Brand. Bloodyface would play that because she would discard that bomb instead. And then pressure for 12 damage this turn. It would have been actually quite ridiculous.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So Bloodyface actually went for another
clever
opportunity. Yeah, very clever move. By drawing the bomb, she actually gets an opportunity to see another card, potentially finding Dire Tamer Brand. That wasn't an out I spotted immediately, but very clever. It didn't pay off, but at least you applaud the correct optimal line there.
Yeah, that was solid, right? You're not worried about your life total because she has plenty of life to work with still at 20. I don't think it changes the clock because XiaoT is more likely to hit critical mass and get out of range of Bloodyface's damage if she doesn't find something to pressure right away. There's Pack Tactics.
Yeah. Pack Tactics, which is actually kind of annoying because it adds just a little bit too much power for this evil quartermaster to trade into. And so XiaoT, I think, wanted to potentially find ways to extend to the board. I don't know if it was worth playing a Blastmaster Boom this turn still with this much power. I think it's Deathwing, yeah.
Yeah. You set up for a 2-turn. You can even trade this Evil Quartermaster into one of the snakes to improve the health of Deathwing Mad Aspect because just the swing from the weapon and the Deathwing next turn is enough.
Yes.
So the only thing that punish you in that situation is like Rindling Rifle off the top into like Misdirection or Freezing Trap, or Freezing Trap itself, right? Those are a couple punishes, but otherwise.
Oh no! And I think all the secrets have been gone through.
She tracked over the Freezing Trap, which means that there's no secret to even pull left in the deck. Because she went for Pack Tactics, she tracked over the Freezing Trap and played the Snake Trap.
Yep, that's right. So with that, XiaoT, very tight play throughout that series.
Yeah.
I couldn't really spot anything that I like strongly disagree with at all. I think that he took like some things that you can maybe debate, increase his percentages by like 1 or 2%. I guess the only thing was the taunt for that game number 1 dynamic, but overall really solid from XiaoT, which we kind of come to expect. He's been touted as one of the best technical players from China and consequently one of the best technical players in the world. And it's really good to see pretty strong play on both ends there. Bloodyface, cards didn't fall her way this time, but that's why we have a lower bracket. She'll be playing in the elimination match later today. But then XiaoT will advance to play Yarla in the top of the group stage. And that's going to be a really exciting match because I think those are two players who are also very, I talk about optimal play. Yarla nailed it in that first series, despite on paper being an unfavored lineup against Glory.
Yeah, that one's going to be tough for XiaoT, though, because Yarla's pack